You ever have one of those mornings where everything feels just right? That's how it started. A Saturday, the kind you wait all week for. I got up a little after 7, still groggy, still in that half-dream state, and stumbled into the kitchen where the smell of fresh coffee hit me like a warm punch in the face. My wife, let's call her Erin, was already there, in one of my old college t-shirts, hair up in a messy bun, making pancakes like she always did on weekends. It was her little thing. Not because she loved pancakes, she actually didn't eat them, but because she knew I did. That was the kind of stuff that used to make me feel lucky. The small things. A shared playlist while doing dishes. Her stealing fries off my plate. Folding my laundry in that weird triangle way only she understood. We'd been together 12 years. Married 9. Somewhere between a bad first date and a great second one. We just stuck. There was a time I thought we had it figured out. Not perfect, but solid. We had our own rhythm. Like a song only we could hear. That morning, she smiled at me over her coffee cup, and I remember thinking how good she looked, like she belonged in that kitchen, in that light, in my life. I kissed the top of her head. We talked about maybe driving up to the lake on Sunday if the weather held. Nothing big. Just the two of us, the water, maybe some sandwiches. Our version of a vacation. Then she asked me to help her fold some laundry upstairs. That's when I noticed it, the little thing. A sock. Not mine. Just a plain black athletic sock sitting on top of our dresser. Different brand. Different size. I picked it up. She saw me holding it. And that's when everything started to unravel. Not fast. Not dramatically. Just slowly, like a zipper coming undone. Because sometimes, all it takes is one tiny thing to wake you up to the fact that your life, the one you thought was real, isn't quite what you believed. That sock? That was the crack in the dam. And I didn't say a word. Not yet. I didn't confront her about the sock. Not then. I just slipped it into my back pocket like some kind of idiot detective and went on folding t-shirts like nothing happened. I could feel her eyes on me, though. Watching. Waiting. Maybe even wondering if I noticed. Or if I'd ever say anything. That moment, right there, was when my brain started doing the math. Calculating the odds. How many socks do we own? How many visitors have we had? None. 0. Not in our bedroom. Not in months. So I kept folding. Smiled when I had to. Made small talk about the grocery list. She asked if I wanted to grill for dinner, and I said sure. Why not? Steak and corn on the cob. Our usual summer routine. The sock stayed in my pocket all day. I'd reach in, feel it, remind myself it was real. Not a dream. Not some weird mix-up. And later that night, while she was upstairs taking a shower, I pulled it out again and held it under the hallway light. It was too small to be mine. Not brand new either, slightly worn. Not something that would have come out of a shopping bag or gotten swapped at the laundromat. We had our own washer and dryer. No roommates. No house guests. Just me and her. That was the problem. I didn't sleep well that night. I laid in bed with her right next to me, scrolling through her phone, occasionally giggling at something on the screen. My mind kept running. Kept looking for another explanation. Kept coming up empty. I think I was still hoping for a rational answer. Some harmless reason. But it didn't come. Instead, around midnight, she rolled over, kissed me on the shoulder, and said something that made my stomach flip. Hey, just a weird thought. How would you feel about being a third? She said it like she was testing the waters. Like she was half joking. Like it was something fun and spicy to throw into a stale marriage. And I just laid there, quiet, pretending to be more tired than I was. My heart thudded once, loud in my ears. Then silence. A third. Like it was a game. Like I was a piece on her board, not her husband. That was the moment I knew. Not just suspected. Knew. Something was happening. Something real. And it wasn't new. You don't just wake up one day and ask your husband to be a third unless you've already had the other two figured out. But I didn't make a scene. Didn't argue. Didn't ask questions. I just filed the whole moment away like evidence in a case I hadn't even told her I was building. Because when your whole world starts to shift, you don't yell. You watch. After that night, nothing looked the same. You ever get a new pair of glasses and suddenly realize how blurry things were before? That's what it felt like. Except instead of clarity, it was suspicion. Everything she did, everything she said, I started picking it apart. She laughed a little too hard at texts. She kept her phone screen tilted away from me. She started going to yoga twice a week, even though she couldn't touch her toes without wincing. I wasn't looking for drama. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband with trust issues. But when your wife casually floats the idea of turning your marriage into a throuple, you stop giving her the benefit of the doubt. Especially when she says it with the same tone you'd use to ask about dinner reservations. I kept replaying that moment in my head, the smirk, the confidence, the way she asked like she already knew the answer. Like I was the one who'd be catching up. And that sock? I kept it in my glove box, tucked inside an old receipt envelope. Not sure why. Maybe it was just my little reminder that I wasn't crazy. That there was something off, even if I didn't know what it was yet. I started noticing more. She wore lipstick again. Not every day, just on those yoga nights. She used to complain it dried her lips out. Now it was suddenly worth the hassle. She shaved her legs in the middle of the week. Bought new underwear. Started spritzing perfume before going to class. Look, I'm not a genius, but I know how routines work. People don't just upgrade their grooming habits overnight unless there's a reason. So I asked myself, was she bored? Lonely? Angry? Did I mess something up along the way? I went back in my mind to when things were good. Not perfect, but honest. When she'd get up early with me on Sundays, and we'd sit on the back deck drinking coffee, talking about nothing and everything. That felt like a lifetime ago now. I still saw flashes of that girl sometimes, in the way she folded my t-shirts just how I liked, or the way she'd laugh when a dog in a sweater walked by. But something had changed, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to fix it or expose it. Either way, I couldn't let it go. I needed answers, and I was done waiting for her to hand them to me. The next morning, I started my quiet little investigation. No trench coat, no magnifying glass, just a guy with a hunch and a healthy mistrust of coincidences. First move, her phone. She was in the shower, singing off-key like she always did when she thought no one could hear. I walked into the bedroom, grabbed her phone off the nightstand. No lock. That surprised me. Or maybe that was the trick, make it look unlocked, keep it clean, and keep the dirt elsewhere. Still, I scrolled. Messages? Ordinary. A little too ordinary. Nothing spicy, no emojis, barely any texts after 6 p.m., which is when her classes usually started. Instagram? Quiet. She hadn't posted anything in a month. WhatsApp wasn't even installed. She wasn't dumb. She'd either deleted everything, or she was using something I didn't know about. Either way, the surface was polished. Almost too polished. So I went digital. Later that night, I installed a device tracker. Nothing fancy. Just one of those Bluetooth tags that sync with your phone. Slipped it into the pocket of the gym bag she always took to yoga. It wouldn't give me her exact moves, but if she wasn't where she said she was, I'd know. I also started logging her schedule in a notes app. Dates, times, details. Just in case. Maybe it was overkill. But when your own wife starts treating you like a guest star in your own marriage, you stop feeling guilty for taking notes. And then I called an old buddy, Mike. He works in IT. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. Asked if he could help me dig a little. Private browser history, maybe access her backup storage if she still had one. He didn't ask questions. Just said, send me what you got, and hung up. That's the thing about close friends. They don't need details to know you're in deep. Over the next few days, I played the part. Loving husband. Slightly more affectionate. Nothing crazy. Just enough to keep her from sensing the shift. She bought it. Or maybe she didn't care. Either way, I was free to dig. And I was starting to feel like I was onto something. Something real. I just didn't know yet how real it would get. It was a Thursday night when the pin dropped. Not the bomb, not yet. Just the pin. Quiet, small, but impossible to ignore once it hit the floor. The tracker pinged. She said she was going to yoga. Same studio as always. But the signal showed her parked somewhere else. A residential area. Nice houses. Tree-lined streets. One of those neighborhoods with bird feeders and porch swings and no HOA because everyone already knew how to behave. I zoomed in on the map. Her gym bag hadn't moved in 40 minutes. So I drove. I didn't speed. Didn't race. Just rolled down the windows, let the night air keep me level. I wasn't even sure what I'd do if I saw her car there. Maybe just confirm it. Maybe take a picture. Half of me was hoping it was nothing. That she'd show up at the studio 5 minutes later and make me feel like an idiot. But that half was clinging to a memory, not reality. When I turned onto the street, there it was, her car. Parked 2 houses down from where the signal said she was. Not even trying to hide it. The porch light was on. Curtains drawn. A faint glow from a TV flickering inside. I didn't go to the door. That's not me. I just sat there, engine off, letting the quiet do the talking. And that's when Mike texted. All it said was, check the cloud. Shared folder. Password's your wedding date. I opened it right there in the car. Photos. Screenshots. A few saved texts. Nothing graphic. But enough. They called him Liam. That name had never come up before. There was one picture of the two of them, her and Liam, at what looked like a cabin. Woods in the background. Her hand on his chest like it belonged there. I sat there staring at it, feeling like someone had hollowed me out from the inside. Not because she cheated, I already knew. It was how normal they looked together. That was the worst part. There wasn't shame in her face. No guilt. Just a smile. Casual. Familiar. Like she belonged in his world now. Like I was the one intruding. On the drive home, I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't punch the steering wheel like some cliché out of a breakup movie. I just drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other tapping the rhythm of some song that wasn't even playing. My brain needed something to do besides replay that picture on a loop. Her smile haunted me. That little half-smile she used to save for me. She'd flash it across a dinner table or while folding laundry, and suddenly everything in the world felt calm. Safe. Now it was his. That was the real sting, the transfer. The subtle shift from ours to his. When I got home, the house was dark. She was still at yoga. Probably wouldn't be back for another hour or two. I sat on the couch, same spot I'd sat in 1,000 times, and just looked around. Photos of us on the wall. A souvenir from our honeymoon in the hallway. The throw blanket her mom had given us for Christmas still folded neatly on the armrest. Our life was everywhere, except it wasn't ours anymore. I was just a guy crashing in the leftovers of a story that had already ended. And I couldn't stop asking myself when it ended. Because the thing is, there was no big blowout. No affair drama. No shouting match that broke everything apart. It was slower than that. Quiet. Like erosion. One little crack at a time. I thought back to the little moments, the kind you don't realize matter until later. How she stopped saying love you before bed. How she started staying out later. How she laughed a little harder at her phone than she did at my jokes. How I started asking if she was okay more often, and she started answering with, "I'm fine," in that tone that said, "Don't ask again." We had drifted. That part I'll own. But she let the drift become distance. And then she let someone else cross it. That night, I dug through old photos on my laptop. Not to torture myself. I just needed to remember what we were before everything rusted over. I found a picture from our 5th anniversary. We were at some vineyard upstate. I looked like a man who believed in forever. She looked like she hadn't made her decision yet. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe she made her choice a long time ago and just never told me. I woke up the next morning with a weird kind of clarity. Not peace. I wasn't anywhere near peace, but direction. Like when you finally realize you've been trying to fix a machine that's already burned out, and instead of grabbing a wrench, you just walk away and grab a clipboard. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wanted the whole picture first. So I started building a case. Not because I planned to sue or go full courtroom drama. I just needed to know I wasn't crazy. That what I felt, what I saw, was real. And honestly, part of me wanted her to know I knew before she even opened her mouth. I started keeping a digital log, times, locations, weird behaviors. Everything. I cross-referenced it with my calendar. Her yoga nights lined up with Liam's condo address. I even went back into our shared Amazon account. Turns out, someone ordered beard oil and a man's bracelet last month. And I don't wear jewelry. Never have. She was leaving trails. Just not for me. Next, I pulled up our joint phone plan. Looked at call logs. One number popped up again and again. Always short calls. Always evenings. Sometimes twice in the same hour. I saved the number. I'd ask Mike to trace it next. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I logged into her old laptop. The one she hadn't used in months. Still had her password saved in the browser. I figured if she was hiding anything, it wouldn't be here. But people get lazy. Even liars. And boom. There it was. A Google Drive folder titled Wellness Retreat. Inside were travel receipts, a few Airbnb confirmations. Photos. One of them was a beach selfie, her and Liam, sunglasses on, drinks in hand. Dated 6 weeks ago. She had told me she was visiting her cousin. I remember that week. I'd been sick. Took a few days off work. She texted me, "Hope you feel better," from 2,000 miles away while she was wrapped around another man. She didn't even bother to crop him out. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. And here's the weirdest part. I didn't feel anger. Not in that moment. I felt embarrassment. Like the punchline of a joke I didn't know I was in. She came home late again that night. Hair damp, leggings on, yoga mat over her shoulder, the full costume. I was sitting on the couch with a book in my hand and absolutely no idea what I just read for the last 30 minutes. She kissed me on the cheek. Said traffic was brutal. Said class ran late because they were doing deep stretches. I nodded like a man who believed her, and she disappeared into the kitchen, humming. I had everything I needed. Photos, receipts, logs, location pings. The kind of evidence that would make any court or jury of friends nod along in disapproval. And yet, I said nothing. I could have laid it all out right there. Could have stood in the kitchen doorway and recited the entire list like some betrayed poet with a vendetta. I could have screamed. Could have cried. Could have made a scene so loud the neighbors would have turned down their TVs. But I didn't. Because I realized something. She didn't deserve the satisfaction. She wanted a reaction. That's what people like her live for, the drama, the chaos, the power trip of making someone feel small. And if I gave her that, even for a second, then I'd be stepping into the role she already cast me in, the bitter husband who couldn't keep his wife interested. So I played it cool. Made her tea. Asked about her class. Laughed at some dumb story she made up about the instructor forgetting his own name. She actually giggled, like we were still us. And all the while, I watched her closely. Because when someone lies that easily, that comfortably, you start to wonder if you ever really knew them. Or if you just knew the version of them they wanted you to see. She went to bed early, said she was tired. I stayed up, sitting at the kitchen table with her cup still warm in my hand. And I thought, this is the last night she gets to pretend I'm blind. I've always believed if you really want to know someone, follow the trail they don't think they're leaving. And Liam? He was practically wearing snowshoes. It didn't take long to find his social media. It was mostly private. He clearly wasn't stupid, but not careful enough. His profile pic was the same face from the beach selfie. Smug guy, mid-30s, trimmed beard, mirrored sunglasses. The type who probably refers to himself as an entrepreneur, but couldn't fix a leaky faucet if you handed him the wrench. His LinkedIn was public, though. Self-employed, wellness coach. That term always makes me laugh. Usually just code for a guy who tells bored women to hydrate and manifest their way out of marriages. I clicked through his job history. Zero corporate experience. Just motivational quotes, yoga retreat photos, and half-baked podcast appearances with titles like Unlocking Your Divine Masculine Energy. I almost choked on my coffee. But then I found what I was looking for. A business website. Real amateur stuff. Too many fonts, a background that looked like it came out of a meditation app. But it had a contact page, a blog, and a calendar for booking private sessions. He had a newsletter too, which I signed up for under a fake name. Because why not? If this guy was going to talk about energy and alignment, I figured I might as well align myself with whatever he was up to. And then I did something that felt almost fun. I sent in a client inquiry. Nothing obvious, just a fake persona. A stressed-out married man who wanted to connect with his spiritual side and needed help grounding his energy. I figured if Liam was the kind of guy to steal someone's wife, he was probably also the kind to sell himself for a high hourly rate to anyone who quoted a few buzzwords. While I waited for a response, I kept digging. Reverse image search on his beach photos? Brought up his name linked to a wellness expo in Arizona last year. A few comments on YouTube from his clients, one of whom had the same last name as a woman I remembered from Erin's phone, buried in her contacts under Deb Yoga. It was like watching puzzle pieces fall into place. Every step made it clearer. This wasn't just some heat-of-the-moment affair. It was organized. Intentional. She had built a new life behind my back, piece by piece, and this guy? He wasn't just some side fling. He was the exit plan. Once you start seeing the cracks, you can't unsee them. And the thing is, the affair with Liam? It wasn't the beginning. It was just the latest. I didn't want to believe it at first. I told myself it was a one-time betrayal, a fluke, something that just happened. Like she'd slipped and fallen into another man's arms, and now we were both just standing around trying to make sense of the damage. But it didn't add up. Not the way she moved lately. Not the way she lied so effortlessly, like she'd done it before. Not her ability to go from sweet to smug with a flick of the switch. That takes practice. So I started going backward, mentally rewinding our relationship. All those moments I used to brush off, I started looking at again through a new lens. Like the girl's trip she took 3 summers ago. She said it was a friend's bachelorette weekend, a cabin, wine, movies. She came back sunburned. I didn't question it then. Now I wonder how many cabins she smiled in. Or the work crush she denied having, just a guy she clicked with on a project. She once changed her phone password around that same time. Back then I thought I was being paranoid for noticing. Turns out I was just early. It became clear. Erin didn't trip and fall into an affair. She walked into it. And chances are, she'd walked down that road before. The Liam thing just happened to be the time she got comfortable enough to stop hiding it. Maybe she thought I wouldn't care. Maybe she thought I'd quietly accept it, even participate, the whole "do you want to be a third" nonsense. Like I'd want to sit on the sidelines while my marriage turned into a spectator sport. But looking back, I saw it. The warning signs, the dips in affection, the time she became distant with no explanation. I used to write it off as stress. Hormones. Life stuff. But maybe those were just the chapters where someone else had the spotlight. She had a pattern, and I had been part of it without knowing. The truth is, I don't even think she loved Liam. I think he was just the next dopamine hit, the next ego boost, the next chance to feel wanted again without doing the work to repair what she already had. And that stung more than anything, because it meant she wasn't just cheating on me. She was using me. And now I had a choice to make: keep playing dumb or flip the script. By now, I'd stopped thinking like a husband and started thinking like a man with a plan. The emotional fog had lifted. I wasn't pacing around the kitchen anymore or staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. This wasn't grief. It was strategy. First thing I did was open a new bank account. Separate. My name only. I started moving small amounts of money over, just enough that it wouldn't trigger any questions. I told her I was saving for a surprise trip. She smiled like I was the sweetest man on earth. I felt like laughing. Next, I met with a lawyer. Told him the basics, didn't drop names, just laid out the facts. He asked if I wanted to file right away. I said not yet. I wanted information first. A full picture. If this was going to end, it wasn't going to end on her terms. Then I backed up everything. Screenshots. Emails. Photos. I even took pictures of the receipts from her retreat that were still stuffed in the junk drawer. She never thought I'd go digging there, but I had. I also dropped a little money on software. Nothing shady. Just a clean system that let me log her location without needing to track her in real time. All legal, all above board. Just observant. And here's the weirdest part. I started being nice. Not fake nice. Not manipulative. Just calm. Present. The kind of guy who makes his cheating wife think he's clueless and content. I think it made her nervous. She started asking if I was okay more often. Said I seemed distant in a weird way. I just smiled, kissed her forehead, and said I was feeling great. Because I was. For the first time in a long time, I was in control. She thought she had the upper hand. That she was running the show. That I was some docile dope who'd either join the party or fade into the background. But I wasn't fading. I was watching, recording, preparing. And when the time came, I'd let her step right into the spotlight she wanted and see how it felt when the curtain dropped. They say when you change the rhythm, people start to trip. That's exactly what happened. Erin was so used to me being predictable, the quiet guy with the steady job, the guy who forgot to notice her new haircut but remembered to take out the trash, the guy who never asked too many questions. So when I stopped asking any, she got suspicious. I didn't comment when she came home later than usual. I didn't ask how yoga was. I didn't even flinch when she said she might take another weekend wellness retreat in the fall. Instead, I nodded. Sounds fun, I said. Just that. She blinked, tilted her head, waited for a follow-up that never came. That was the first thread to slip. The second came when she checked the bank account and noticed a few hundred missing. Nothing major. I told her I'd bought some tools. She didn't ask which ones. She just nodded, but her eyes lingered on me a little longer than usual. A week later, she asked if I wanted to go on a double date with her friends. I said no. Told her I had some reading to catch up on. Truth was, I just wanted to see what she'd do with a little freedom she didn't expect. She didn't go out. She stayed home, on her phone most of the night. I caught her glancing at me more than once, like she was studying me, like she couldn't figure out what changed. I was still doing the chores, still laughing at her bad jokes, still picking up groceries on Saturdays and folding laundry like clockwork. But she could feel it, the distance. And I think that rattled her more than any fight ever could have. Cheaters, the real kind, the ones who lie like it's muscle memory, they don't fear confrontation. They expect it. What they fear is silence, stillness, the unknown. Because when the person they're betraying suddenly stops reacting, it means they've lost control of the narrative. She started asking if I was happy, tossed in more casual affection, leaned in more during conversations. Started wearing that old perfume I once told her I liked back in 2016. I played along. I smiled. I kissed her goodnight. But every move she made to reel me back and just confirmed what I already knew. She felt the shift. She knew something was coming. She just didn't know what. There's a moment right before a storm hits, that heavy, charged silence. The air goes still. Everything feels expectant, like the world is holding its breath. That's where I was, right on the edge. The pieces were all in place. I had the photos, the receipts, her travel records, phone logs, even a list of suspicious recurring payments she'd been making to some wellness platform that just so happened to be registered under Liam's business name. Everything tied together like knots in a net, one she didn't even know she'd walked into. I hadn't decided what to do with it yet. Not fully, but I was getting close. She was unraveling. Subtle, but noticeable. Her tone got sharper. Her patience shorter. The once effortless smirks now seemed forced, like someone trying to stay charming during a job interview that wasn't going well. The guilt wasn't eating at her. The uncertainty was. She'd glance at me while we sat on the couch, her thumb twitching against her phone screen. I searching my face for some crack in the armor. I gave her nothing. And that seemed to terrify her more than if I'd thrown her phone against the wall. She started asking about us, out of nowhere. Do you still feel the same? Are we okay? Have I changed lately? It wasn't concern. It was surveillance. She was trying to gauge how much I knew, how much danger she was in. I kept my answers vague. Gentle. I didn't lie. But I didn't hand her anything either. Let her squirm. Let her second-guess herself. That was part of it now, making her feel the cracks she'd created. It's strange how quiet revenge can be. I didn't want to hurt her. Not really. I just wanted her to see. To understand that the version of me she thought she was manipulating, that guy didn't exist anymore. I wasn't the third in anything. I was the one writing the ending. It didn't go down like a movie scene. No dramatic confrontation, no suitcase hurling down the stairs. Just a moment. A perfectly ordinary Tuesday night. She was in the kitchen rinsing dishes, humming to some playlist. I walked in, sat at the counter, and slid a manila folder across the surface. Nothing fancy. No name written on it. No label. She looked at it, then looked at me. What's this? She asked. I didn't answer. Just took a sip of my coffee and waited. She opened it. Slow. Like she already knew what was inside and just didn't want to meet it. Photos. Screenshots. Flight receipts. That beach picture. A copy of her Airbnb messages with Liam. Even the order history with the beard oil and wellness coaching sessions. No commentary. No accusation. Just the facts. Her hands hovered over the pages. She didn't flip them, just stared. Like the folder was breathing. I waited. She closed it gently. No panic. No tears. Just a soft exhale. And then she looked at me, really looked, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't seem smug. Or playful. Or defensive. She looked exposed. Like someone standing outside without a coat, realizing the temperature had dropped 10 degrees and no one was coming with a blanket. Still, I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even ask a single question. Because I didn't need to. She knew what it meant. That the story was no longer in her hands. The silence stretched. Finally, she opened her mouth like she was about to speak. Maybe justify it. Maybe beg. Maybe offer some new twisted compromise. But I stood up. Took my mug with me. And walked out of the room. Not because I was angry. But because I didn't want to hear it. Whatever she had to say was too late. Not because the betrayal had broken me. But because she wasn't worth the explanation anymore. It's strange, the silence after the storm. There's no applause. No satisfying music playing in the background. Just quiet. The kind that makes the fridge hum sound like a thunderclap. She didn't chase me that night. Didn't come into the room. No angry footsteps. No sobbing apologies. Nothing. And honestly, that hurt more than I expected. I thought maybe, deep down, there'd be some fight in her. Something that said this mattered. But she just stayed in the kitchen, like a kid sent to the principal's office, waiting for the final sentence. Over the next few days, we barely spoke. I didn't throw her out. Not yet. I wasn't even sure I wanted to. Not because I still loved her. But because part of me didn't want to give her the drama she probably craved. I wasn't going to be her villain. I wasn't going to let her play the part of the misunderstood woman whose husband just couldn't understand her journey. Screw that. I let her sit in the mess she made. Quietly. I started sleeping in the guest room. Started taking longer drives. Opened up to a couple of friends who'd been waiting, not to say I told you so, but just to listen. I looked at our wedding photo once. We looked like kids, full of hope, wearing clothes we'd never wear again, smiling smiles that hadn't been tested yet. That version of me, the guy in the photo, he didn't know what was coming. He didn't see the slow fade, the behind-the-back whispers, the late-night text messages that weren't meant for him. He just thought love was enough. Turns out, it's not. Not if the other person's already packed their bags emotionally, even if they're still showing up to dinner. So now I'm here. Somewhere between heartbreak and clarity. No rage. No pity. Just a quiet understanding that the life I thought I was building wasn't real. Not in the way I believed. She's still here for now. But we're not together. Not anymore. She knows it. I know it. There's a paper trail, a digital trail, and an emotional one that leads straight to the truth. What comes next? I don't know. Maybe I file. Maybe she does. Maybe we just drift so far apart that one of us eventually stops showing up at all. But I do know this. I'm not the third. Never was. I was the only one trying to make it real. And now I'm finally ready to stop pretending.